The last few weeks have probably been, if not the hardest, among the hardest of my life, Blanche's life, for so many reasons. And so the saga continues, with the biggest revelation being that I have totally failed Buddhist detachment. I've let go of so much stuff, but I am suffering the burden of too much stuff. And it's really a great lesson. Because, first of all, you have to pack up too much stuff. Then you have to ship it across country in this situation, using all of these people and a truck that is so big I couldn't get out of my driveway. And then it arrived at my house in Red Hook, and it took a day to unload all my stuff and to even begin to imagine where to put it. And it filled up the house very quickly. And then I remembered that I had a whole other house to empty into this house. I do not recommend moving from one house or two houses into a smaller house. If you can upscale, go for it. If you cannot, you are going to learn box by box by box what it means to hold on to stuff. And it's also interesting because most people, when they put the boxes down, don't put them in any particular order. So if you put your silverware in the bottom of 9 boxes that are 3 feet tall each, unless you find the plastic silverware, you don't have anything to eat with. And that's just the tip of an iceberg of issues that happen in a new home that doesn't yet know who you are and that you don't know at all. For example, you don't know how to get the hot water to get hot. You don't know that until you take your first shower. And then you discover that it's lukewarm at best. And the weekend is approaching, and you have nothing but basically cold to lukewarm water. And then you're at the July 4th holiday, and everyone you call is gone. But one guy, Saturday morning, says, sure, I'll come by. He finds one little switch in the basement that none of us would ever have known about, and he went like that, and we had hot water. And if you want to understand the experience of the miraculous, that's what it feels like. You don't know anything, but the universe is wise. And if you are deeply open, things happen. Things come. Rudy had this fabulous line years ago. He says, you know you're in flow if you run out of gas right next to a gas station with a great restaurant attached. Well, we had a flat tire in a gas station. And while we were trying to add air to the tire, it just kept getting less and less air until it was completely flat. So I called AAA, and I just said, I mean, if you're moving into a new house, every minute is a challenge, and you just got used to challenges. So Blanche and I just sat there in the car, and I decided I better move all of my suitcases out of the back so that AAA, when they arrived, could get into the trunk. And a guy who's filling up his tank saw me doing that. He said, do you have a flat? I said, yes. He said, well, I can fix that. His name was Dylan. He just came over and fixed the flat. Showed me the tire with a nail in it. Was as loving and kind and simple and unexpected as imaginable. In my normal state of being, I would have been so angry at having a flat tire But now I was so worn down that I was like, okay, a flat tire. The idea that this guy, this is the gas station in the middle of the town. We had just had dinner with our grandchildren, which was why we're there, and was wonderful. This guy, out of the kindness of his heart and out of the grace of a universe that really does watch over us, did something that nobody in Los Angeles or perhaps in Marin County would have done. I don't know that for a fact, but I know I felt it's going to be okay. It's just going to be okay. I learned so many lessons. The first night in our house, I woke up in the morning and I said, this is not my house. I don't know where I am. I don't belong here. This is the middle of nowhere. I don't know why I came here. This is insane. I'm angry at my wife. I'm angry at the universe. And I just felt really awful, like this was the worst thing I had ever done in my life. This is your teacher speaking. And you have to know, as each of us has to know, our levels of humanity, who we are, what our failings are as human beings and as people. And I knew I couldn't really live in that state, but it was really uncomfortable. But I decided, I call this my Neptunian state. I've talked about this in earlier talks with you because there's an astrological configuration called Neptune conjunct Sun, which is about the total annihilation of the person, and it is really painful. And this was like a Neptunian moment. It was like way over the top of, I'm being annihilated here. There's no place that I can call home. There's nothing here that represents who I have known myself to be at all. So I'm just going through this thing, and there are 400 boxes to be moved and unpacked. And a great lesson from when I came back from India reoccurred. And I think I've spoken about it here, but I will reference it because it's so valuable. When I came back from India, I stayed at a friend's loft in Tribeca, and I read a magazine article in Esquire magazine, which I just discovered for the first time again, after going through all of our boxes, about how the human race has so many years left because there won't be enough food. Proves not to have been true. But it really hit me in a big way because I have a Hollywood dramatic apocalyptic sensibility. And I just sat down on a bed, and for 2 days I did not move. I was catatonic. My friend didn't know what to do. He couldn't get me to eat food. I just couldn't imagine how to go forward. I'd come back from this huge trip to India, totally unenlightened, and just a person again in New York City, having gone around the world waiting to get all of this blessing of the universe, and I had gotten a message that the human race was ending. And then he had a delivery of wood, 3 stories down, because he was going to be renovating the loft. And so I was sitting there, and he came over to me and said, Bruce, you got to do me a favor. I cannot carry all this wood upstairs. I just can't do it. I need your help. I said, okay. And I went down 3 flights, and I started carrying these 2x4s and 4x4s and all this wood up these 3 flights of stairs. Every flight up, my mood lessened. My openness expanded. And by the end of 3 hours of moving wood, I was a different person. And it was the first time that I understood work, the value of pure work. Extrapolated now to all these years later, 52 years later, in a house I don't belong in, that I don't know, that makes no sense to me, that should never have happened, I had to unpack boxes and move them from upstairs. It's a 3-story house with a basement that walks outside, but it's still 3 flights, carrying boxes that are heavy. And I had to work. And every box that I moved allowed me to find myself where I was, in a new environment, in a new house, in a place that I did not fully understand. Really, it feels like the middle of nowhere. It's not. It's 15 minutes from a town, 12 minutes from a town. But it feels like nowhere. Nowhere in my mind, because it's not related to anything other than my grandchildren. But I I did the work, and I became more and more present, because work is a mechanism of being present. It's why it's the centerpiece of the human journey. We all have to work. Physical work being the most powerful. Mental work is okay, but I'm telling you, moving boxes, building something, constructing something, saving something, planting something is at the core of sanity, pure human sanity. And it brought me back. And I just felt, I know where I am. I don't know this house. I don't know the walls. I don't know the floors exactly. It's not familiar, but I know where I am. And where I was right here. I was right here. And interestingly enough, as the scraping away of the ego-minded self occurs, what remains is right here, where you have always been. And there is something exceedingly, exquisitely comforting in being right here. Unless you haven't done any work on yourself. And then you sit with right here, it's like, get me a drink as fast as I can, or get me a drug, or get me out of here, because a lot of people can't bear being where they are. But if you've meditated for 50 years, right here actually has an embracing presence. And you actually feel comforted by being. It was also nice that a lot of the furniture that came with us was familiar. And as we started moving it and placing it around the house, I found these little spots of, oh yeah, this. And I was so touched by it, so grateful for these small little things that were touchstones to something that I knew, all in the wrong place, but where they should be in a funny way. And we kept moving them around just to get them out of the boxes, but it kept warming my heart, and I kept feeling, I can do this. Leaving Los Angeles was very painful. Packing it up. The movers decided, without telling us, to come a day early to load the trucks. So the packing wasn't finished, the wrapping of stuff. So it was insane, trying to get everything on this massive truck. And Blanche had not finished her office, and I knew from day one she would not finish her office, and that it would be the drag, if you will, on everything. Because for Blanche is global, but personal is not her forte. So the office was going to be the last thing, and she did not want anyone else to pack it. So they were loading the truck, and she's packing her office. And I'm going, we gotta get this done. And she's saying, I'm getting it done, I'm getting it done. Well, she didn't get it done. They loaded the truck, and luckily I brought my van, and we had to spend an extra day in LA than I had planned to let Blanche pack her office. And she did not want my help, which is an ongoing reality for us. So I was left to be deeply alone in an empty house with nothing in it. And I really didn't know what to do. It was too moving on some level to be in my house with nothing there. This house of 35 years at every corner had richness. When my mom died, I went to her house, and luckily I found an hour where everybody left after the house was emptied. And I don't know what happened to me, but I sat in literally every corner of every room, and I just cried my heart out for every memory that had come from that house and from my mother. And it was the most, I call it Shakespearean cry that I have ever had, missing everything about her and about the life she had given me and all of us. And I fully expected that to happen in Los Angeles, but it did not happen. There was really warm feeling. I just felt, boy, this place is beautiful. Boy, this place has given so much to us. It is so full of richness. It's so full of happiness. So I did a thing. I started walking through the neighborhood, And I decided to call everyone I knew who'd been kind to me in Hollywood. And I got on the phone, people who hadn't heard from me in years, and I said, I just want to thank you. They were like shocked that I had called them, but they were grateful. And I took advantage of a moment that I might not have had because we had to spend this extra day to call all these wonderful people and just finish it. Make sure they knew that I cared, that I really cared. And then I came home and I did this thing which I did in India, and I described it to you, which was when I went to the holy Buddhist sites and Hindu, I laid down prostrate on the ground, and put my head on the grass or the mud or whatever was there. And I went through this litany of thank yous to Buddha, to Rudy. Then the list just went on and on, I mean, to hundreds of people. And I just kept thanking everybody. And when I stood up, it was a completion. I was done with something. I didn't fully understand it at the time. I've spoken about it here. But in a way, I was done with my life being defined by other philosophies. That I love Buddhism, but it does not define me. Hinduism I love, Judaism I love, Christianity I love. I don't know Islam, really. But I just felt I'm not defined by these. They have been impactful, they have shaped a journey, but they were not the definition of me. I'm now in my backyard of my house of 35 years, longer than I lived anywhere, and I lie down on the ground and I do the same thing. I say thank you to everything. I can't say that I named each of you individually, but trust me, you were all part of the collective. You were in my heart. But it was the LA experience, this strange journey to Los Angeles for a kid from Detroit who had no path to Los Angeles, only a wish. And my wish was to make movies, which is kind of a crazy wish, especially for a kid in Detroit. And I found no way that I could ever have done that. And you may all remember this story. I had a movie that opened in LA, and I came to the premiere with a wing and a prayer and borrowed money. And the filmmaker, Brian De Palma, who's a friend, said, Bruce, if you want a career, you got to move here. I went back to Illinois, where I was living with my wife and 2 sons, and Blanche said, we're moving to Hollywood. She had a great job, a career, and everything. And she just said, we're doing this. I didn't have the courage for that. She did. And we moved to a place that was truly alien to Blanche, and in many ways to me, except I had a career in Hollywood. That career would never have happened if I hadn't pushed the plant or the seed form from DeKalb, Illinois into Los Angeles. And then the plant grew, as it can. And it grew beyond anything I had ever dreamt or imagined. And it fulfilled so much of me. And yet, strangely, it was never our true soil. Los Angeles was wonderful. Family followed. We had huge convocations of family regularly there. But when I was a kid, I knew in Detroit that the stork had dropped me in the wrong city. It was on its way to New York, and and I ended up in Detroit, and couldn't wait to get out. And when I did get out, I got to New York, and I always believed I belonged in New York. I met Blanche in New York. I met Rudy in New York. I was prepared to live in New York my whole life. And then Rudy died, and this strange journey occurred, trying to maintain a spiritual life by moving to Indiana, where one of his students was teaching, and who I felt I needed to study with. And then that moved to DeKalb, Illinois, and then suddenly Los Angeles, the opposite side of the country. And in a way, what really was wanted in some way was this presence in New York. And so at one point we bought a house in New York, you all know this, and had a wonderful life in this unbelievably beautiful 150-acre, 22-room mansion of a house that was supported by my writing a movie a year. And if I stopped writing a movie a year, we'd be in trouble. And I was getting older and tireder. And finally, our accountant said, Bruce, you can have 14 years at this house in New York or the rest of your life in Los Angeles. But you can't have both. So we sold the house, which was painful for Blanche because she was really at home in that house. And she had her horses there, and we had a life there that was really quite exquisite, although for me it was always demanding because I had to keep writing a movie a year to keep this thing going. So we ended up, strangely, not going back to Los Angeles, but following now new grandchildren to Seattle and then here to San Rafael. I met wonderful people in Seattle, but I have fallen in love with the people that I've met here. This is, I mean, I don't know what to say to you guys, but I love you guys beyond anything I can explain, really. And so we had this still two-house phenomenon, and then my son Josh, who's living here with the kids, said, I cannot afford a house here. I cannot live here. I would have stayed here forever. And he was looking all over the country, and he ended up finding an affordable home 10 minutes from our old mansion in New York. And he said, that's where we're moving. And it all, you know, it shifted. Everything shifted, and the groundswell just took over. And I had a profound revelation downstairs in the kitchen here that if I could give my son enough money, he can buy this house in upstate New York and live within his means comfortably in this beautiful 4-acre, gorgeous home. And I could buy a smaller home that would make his house possible, and I could learn to live a more simple life, and that my true happiness would come from seeing him happy. Well, you've all heard this thing from Rudy, but I'll repeat it. He said, don't judge the success of your spiritual life by your happiness, but by the happiness of the people around you. And if you want to see happy people, you have to see my son, his wife Evan, and Talia and Elijah. They are exuberant with a world that they have found. I want all of you to come visit. I mean, their house is, I mean, talk about impure spirituality. I am so envious of their house. It has parkland surround. It's invisible from the road. It is a perfect, idyllic space to raise children. There's a swimming pool. It's got everything, a gazebo. It's just a lovely, lovely house. And the part of me that cringes with envy lasts about 1/12 of a second, and then I just feel the happiness. I literally feel the happiness. But the real happiness is my wife. Blanche is happy in this new world, which is not new because we have friends there who know us. Interestingly enough, we are arriving there on the very day of the Lobster Fest, which we've gone to for close to 20 years, which is where everybody we know in that whole area gathers for a wonderful, Jack and Marion have this house, they do a Lobster Fest, and we've gone and we just convene with everyone. So we are arriving this day where we will see everyone we know at one moment. And it was like, oh, all these strange little things are happening. These things that are so unexpected, that are so sweet. And I'm trying to learn from this lesson about what happens when you just let it happen. This idea of past tense has been falling away from me for a long time. It's really interesting. I don't care about the past very much. I don't invoke it. I've had a really good life so far. It's really, it's just been kind of blessed in many ways, but it's already something else. The future, anybody over 70 doesn't look to the future because there's no pretty future, really. It all goes in one direction. So if you start looking at the future, you get really kind of a little confused by it. So you stay in the present tense. Even if you pay too much attention to the present activities going on around you, like watching news on television and stuff like that, it gets a little bit problematic. But if you get really quiet and you just do the work, something remarkable happens. Something remarkable. And what I am finding and sharing with you is this thing that's been going on now for about a month, maybe longer. I've always been aware of this idea of the clear light of reality. The Tibetans talk about it. It's something you see at the end of your life. And those of you who have escaped the thrall of living and being engaged in the world, you have opened yourself to the possibility that when this clear light appears, you say yes to it and it embraces you and carries you into the tunnel of light or whatever, and you're free. And even in my movie Jacob's Ladder, Jacob has a moment on a subway. He doesn't know what he's doing there, but he gets off the subway and he's lost and confused and he's can't get out. The subway's locked at every exit, and he tries to jump the tracks. In the middle of the tracks, a subway comes at him with this brilliant light shining, and it's the clear light of reality. And he jumps out of the way, and he spends the next hour and a half in the Bardo state trying to find the clear light of reality again, which comes at the end gently because his son, his dead son, appears and carries him up a stairway into light. Jacob's Ladder, the stairway up. I've always thought about the clear light of reality, and will I be ready to see it at the end? And what I have finally come to know is I'm looking at it right now. And so are all of us. You are living in the clear light of reality. This is that. This whole thing is illuminated, even in the middle of the night, by the clear light of reality. This is real. And if you get out of the way, if you live in the moment of it, if you do the work, if you live simply, if you let the universe do what it's going to do, it will give your wife an extra day to do things you don't want her to do so you can say goodbye appropriately to everybody. It will give you a flat tire at a gas station in the middle of town where a guy, an angel out of nowhere, will come and help you fix your tire. If you live in the clear light of reality, reality will be present. And that reality is a gift to all of us who don't give ourselves over to the enormity of thunderous noise in the mind that takes us away from this. It is constantly a reduction into present tense. That's all it is. It isn't something you have to practice in the end. Well, maybe you do. You practice and you practice. But the experience for me now is it's not practice, it's living. It's just doing, being, showing up. That's all it is. And every one of us here is doing it consciously or unconsciously. If you're unconscious, you're going to be caught up in all of your drama and all of your stuff. And the only way out of all of your drama and all of your stuff is sit down for 20 minutes a day quietly. Open your chakras, open your centers, your mind, your heart, your gut, your ego-centeredness, your reproductive potential for renewing you, not just making new life outside you, but inside you. Open to all of this and feel it's working now. And if you practice this every day, you arrive, I believe, at a moment where you're no longer practicing, you're just living. And you're living it like a human being. So let me talk about human being for 1 minute. A human being is a very imperfect construct. It's got DNA in it. It's got history. It's got your family's history, your ancient ancestors' history. It's all woven up into you. It's gotten biology in you. It has a fear of not breathing. It has a fear of burning alive. It has a fear of being crushed. All of these horrible things that you can be fearful of all exist in you. They may not come up until the moment that it's happening, but you will realize you're a human being. You are here in a state of fear that you do not have to engage until you have to engage it. At which point it will probably bring about an adrenaline that we don't fully understand that will change the transitional moment in some powerful way. But being a human being is so central to the experience of acceptance of what is. being a human being is being not only you as a human being, it's being all human being. And you will start to feel that. I mean, I love being in airports and downtown streets with all these people because I feel myself walking around. I feel all my children. I feel all my parents. I feel all the people of the world. And I not only feel them, I just love them. I love them. And I cannot explain the magnitude of love that has arisen over the course of this transitional period. It is completely transforming, and it's got another year or so to go. A lot more ripping away of the shadow self, ripping away of the familiar, ripping away of the wish I could and what was, and all the crap that comes up. It's going to be torn down and torn down and torn down until what's left is something that's talking to you right now, but just lighter, freer. It is a really amazing, powerful journey. And those who choose to be on it are on it. If you choose to be on this path, you will go through what I'm going through. And if you go through what I am going through, the thing that is removed from you is any sense of you're being made better by this, or you're being freed by this, or you're getting something out of this. It's exactly the opposite of that. If any part of you is sitting around smugly thinking, look what I am, it will not be the case. There is literally zero ownership. You are an absent being, absent in any kind of worldly sense. You are just nothing, but that nothing is all that you have ever been or wanted to be. If you find yourself lugging around way too many books with nowhere to put them, you're either going to have to build bookshelves, which is effortful, or give them away, which is effortful, or live with them in boxes in the basement, which is, what's that about? If you have too much art and you've acquired beauty in your life, you either have to find wall space for it, or you have to keep it in the basement, or you give it away. I will tell you this. Was interesting. Blanche was worried about setting the alarm at the house in New York because somebody could come in and steal our stuff. And all I could think was, please, come in and steal all of our stuff because I have a whole other house that needs to go in. And I have nowhere to put it at all. I have nowhere to put things. We have yet to have that happen. Although when we did arrive, the alarm went off and wouldn't go off for 20 minutes, and the police came, and it was our welcome to the house. It was like, oh yeah, of course. We're in an alarm state. And there's all of these difficulties and negativities and possessivenesses, and I can't let go of that book. Okay, I'll get rid of that one. But there's all of this stuff that goes on. Welcome to being a person. But the part of me that is open to being robbed of everything, it will be fulfilled. Because in the end, they will take it all away. And I promise you something, not one part of you will care. Easy. You don't have to take it to Goodwill, you don't have to take it to Salvation Army. They will come and get it, or your kids they'll do their work. And trust me, their work is a gift. They're giving away your stuff is their gift. Half of what I was doing in LA was going through my parents' boxes and Blanche's parents' boxes and getting rid of bills that they didn't pay 40, 50 years ago. Why we still have it, I have no idea. Why would we have that? Because we never had time to go through their stuff. And then I had to do it, and I never even got through it. I still have more to go through. So, and I have my own stuff to go through. So this is the reality of seeing what you have, that you don't need much of it. If you can get rid of it now, that would be really smart. If you can't get rid of it, someday you will. And at some point, if you don't get rid of it, the universe will take care of it. So this is the saga of a move, from California to New York. It has some really good aspects. It has some really difficult aspects. I am saddened that we will have only one more class here. But I am grateful that the classes will continue without me. Shelley and Mark will have a home. Susan has a home where classes will continue. Terry will kind of moderate the show and see that it all kind of continues. And those of you who want to keep sitting and have a group experience, I recommend it highly, because the cross-pollination of a group is exquisitely meaningful in the spiritual realm, because we have strengths and weaknesses that get moved around in the space of stillness, and we become whole in ways that you don't understand when you're open to and vulnerable to a group. So I would encourage people to continue to come to the class and sit with each other, and expand the class if you can. Invite others in. Let people come. Let them know. There's so many good teachers in this room. So many good teachers. And I mean, I think one would be lucky to fall upon any of you and discover how much wealth of possibility exists in each of you. You're just remarkable beings. And as I have said ad nauseum, the world needs you. And the world to come, as it seems to be arising, needs you more than anything. So make yourselves available. On the other hand, I will tell you, even if you don't physically teach or sit down in a formal situation, live the life of a teacher, meaning live the life of someone who cares about other people. Live the life of someone who can reach out and touch somebody and help transmit a kindness, a grace, an understanding, whatever it is that might be helpful to another person. There is no one who can't do that. If you're a teacher, it's kind of required for your own sanity and biology. If you're not a teacher and you're a student, which we basically all are, even when we call ourselves teacher, if you are part of this spiritual journey, the spiritual journey just means love and compassion for the other as the self. Period. And it's not a passive thing, it's active. Do it every opportunity you have and can find to give yourself to others. And I will tell you, like Rudy said, the happiness of those around you will be much greater than the happiness that you walk around with that no one else can touch. So enjoy the clear light of reality. Be grateful that you found yourself in it, even if you aren't aware of it. Trust me, it is impossible to understand cognitively what this is. It will not happen, but it is. And the very isness of it isn't going anywhere, and you are the essence of that isness. And if you can just, wow. I mean, it's really just great gratitude and wonder. If you can do that, there's nothing more to be done, really. And then at some point it will be over, and very likely you will discover that there's no such thing as over. So next week, class here. As many of you know, we're giving stuff away. A lot of you have signed up for things that Blanche put online. We'd love it if you would help take it away. There's some of it, a few things I could probably need another week of. I need a little bit of help. We have a TV in my bedroom that is too heavy to lift down, which we would like to give away, but it's one of the old TVs and nobody may want it. If you want it, it's yours. Otherwise, you just have to put it out front. There are a few little things I can't reach up high on shelves. If you can help with that, I will be glad to tell you what they are. But anything that you can help us with, we'll be very grateful for. And next week, there will probably be more stuff. We're trying to process it as we go. So don't consider these gifts to you, they're just helping us take stuff away, okay? And also, don't get too greedy in it, just take what, you know, take what you need or what you would like, and I'll be happy to, you know, and Aunt Blanche is happy to make it available. Anyway, thanks again for coming. And next week we'll do this one more time, and truly love you. We'll truly miss you guys, and I will be back. Which I'll say that again next week too. I will be back.